Now we are shifting gears to the topic of graffiti. Or is it vandalism? Or is it art? The two sides of this debate converge in a new book titled More Paint by local photographer Brandon Bai. He joins us now to share more. Thanks for being here, Brandon. This is cool.
Thanks,
Congrats
Chris.
on the book. Let's talk about
that.
this. So why did you decide to do this?
Well, I didn't really do it intentionally. It kind of came out of me walking the streets and photographing and getting to know the city, and it emerged out of instinct to understand my environment, really.
Your photographs are stunning. Talk about why you decided to kind of make this pivot. Yeah, at what point did you find sort of a unique purpose here?
Well, let's see. I think as I was walking around the city and I was seeing these cycles of removal and return, graffiti going up, paint going over the graffiti, more paint, encampments being swept and reassembling, I was trying to understand kind of what the driving forces, the invisible forces sort of pushing that loop were.
Yeah.
And More Paint is an attempt to understand what those forces are.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, this is one of those bona fide debates. Some people see paint and graffiti and murals as beautification, and some people see it as just vandalism. How do we find a compromise here, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if there needs to be a compromise. I think that people are allowed to have different responses to what they see in the streets. Some people see disorder and a loss of innocence in Seattle. Some people see a humanitarian crisis with the folks who are living out there struggling, and some people completely ignore it. And I understand all perspectives, and More Paint is really about trying to accept or realize maybe what the conditions that we're living in are part of a bigger constellation of invisible forces.
This project, amongst other things, has some roots in Buenos Aires. How does it tie in here to Seattle?
Yeah, well, in Buenos Aires and in other parts of the city, street art and poverty are metabolized into the landscape. But in Seattle, we're still chewing on these issues and trying to learn to live with them or not. I think, we see these new issues as problems, and our attempt to solve them is a natural instinct. But I think that first we have to sit with the problems, look at them, and maybe root cause before we can try to apply any solutions.
As you're documenting with these photos and the things you're seeing, a lot of these are just things that the average person walks by, right? And some of us even assumes that's just graffiti. Sometimes there is symbolism and messages. Do you remember any moments where you were struck by something you saw that was just a simple message, a simple piece of something sprayed on a wall that just, I know that your book is kind of filled with a lot of these kind of poignant things that you captured.
Sure, yeah. Sometimes, graffiti is unintelligible to anybody who's not familiar with what is going on there. Sometimes it's very pointed. There's an image in the book where some paint is written on a wall and it says, "Incoming condos, overpriced condos incoming." And it's written on these sort of ruins where a former supermarket in Chinatown International District was, Viet Hoa, had burned down. And there are images like that in the book that show that graffiti often is a political statement. When I was in Buenos Aires, there was a graffiti writer who I ended up meeting who writes "No me baño," and that translates to "I don't bathe myself." And I thought it was a political message because often that graffiti framed up scenes of poverty on the streets. And when I reached out to them and I asked, "Is this a political thing?" He said, "No, we just grew up kids not washing ourselves, and that was the graffiti that we decided to write." So,
wow.
But that kind of connected the dots for me, and it gave me the idea that graffiti, and this isn't an original idea, but it's happening here in Seattle, and we're getting used to it. The idea that graffiti and homelessness are symptoms of a sick society.
Right. And art, of course, interpretation is a big part of it. So you capturing, we should let folks know that you actually have a special event coming up at Elliott Bay Book Company. Tell us about what's going to be happening.
Yeah, well, at Elliott Bay, I'll be doing a reading from the book and having a Q&A. There's still sort of some formatting going on. I've got potential panel discussion with somebody named Eric Bell, who runs a cleanup program called A Cleaner Alki. Been in coordination with Real Change and potentially having one of their representatives on the panel. So TBD on whether or not that'll be at the Elliott Bay or Town Hall in the future.
Well, very cool. It's great work you're doing. Thanks for documenting this. And again, you've got that event coming up at Elliott Bay Book Company. What's the best way for folks to follow along other than to pick up a copy of More Paint?
Yeah, More Paint's on Instagram at More Paint, More Paint.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.